Awesome. Well, I'm here with my friend Michael Larson. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah. So we met through one of my best friends, Ben Sand, who is a mentor of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And we also go to Bridgetown Church together.
Yep.
So it's been great to get to know you for the past kind of year and a half and see your journey. And I just wanted to kind of kick this year off with you and kind of remind the audience that I started this whole We Believe in Portland thing trying to keep it really simple with getting a whole bunch of people together in Portland to pick up trash and support a local restaurant, and that, you know, would infuse a little pride in the city and all that. But one of the big things that I was paralyzed to even take any action was on this whole homeless thing, that I just felt like as a private citizen, I couldn't really make much of a dent there. But your work has really inspired me, and here you are, 25 years old, running a nonprofit around that. And I just, how'd you get here? And, you know, tell like a glimpse of your origin story of how you got to running Humans for Housing.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. And so for me, it really starts kind of with my story.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young, I, at 2 years old, entered into the foster care system, and me and my two siblings spent about 10 years in foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved around to different homes and experienced different forms of trauma in those homes as well. And when I was 12 years old, was adopted by a loving single mother who had 2 kids of her own. And she ended up bringing us into her family. And that's really when stability and stability hit for me and my siblings. And so when I got to college, I studied sociology at Gonzaga University.
Go Zags.
And that's when I learned that about 40% of kids who age out of foster care will end up experiencing homelessness. And so in college, got really involved serving and hearing these people's stories and being a part of different meal programs or serving at shelters. And the more that I heard these people's stories, the more that I realized that so easily I could have been in their position.
Yeah.
And was really a single mother away from that potentially happening for my siblings and I, with some of the adverse childhood experiences that we have, our ACEs. It's like your trauma score.
Right.
And so from that point on in college, developed this kind of filmmaking background and documentary work, and that turned into a project my senior year that was about telling the stories of 4 people experiencing homelessness in Spokane, Washington. And that film was called Humanizing Spokane, and it was a 26-minute documentary that really humanized and told these stories and encouraged the general public in Spokane to not just see the issue that this is, but the actual faces and the people and the stories behind this issue. And so a lot of that was inspiration for Humans for Housing and the work that we're doing now, and kind of what we started with this film that we just produced in Portland called No Place to Grow Old.
So you're 25 and the film is all about older people.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Kind of aging into homelessness, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, so as our director of the film, his name's Davey Shaw, as we're scoping out the project and getting to know different shelters in town and connecting with the nonprofits that are already doing great work here, what we found in some of the research that's come out this last year is that older adults are the fastest growing demographic of people entering into homelessness. And there's actually a prediction that by 2030, this population is going to triple. And so a combination of rising costs of living and high rent prices, with also a massive baby boomer generation that is growing older, and those 2 factors, along with costs of healthcare for older adults, intersect to now there's just not enough housing, and as rents have gone up, people are living on a fixed income and can no longer afford those increased rents. And so that's part of the reason why it's happening.
And your part of the solution is to raise awareness and advocacy more from legislators can fund, like what's the end result?
Yeah, so part of it is engaging the general public and helping build empathy and compassion for the people who are experiencing homelessness, but also helping raise awareness of all the people who are right on the edge of entering into homelessness, and then helping to educate on what some of those factors are. And then the other piece of it is advocacy for these longer term solutions and helping our elected officials see that this is a demographic that we should protect and make sure it doesn't fall into homelessness in older age, but also that they're aware of some of the interventions that can help protect people from even entering into homelessness in the first place.
And what's your take on Mayor Wilson's goal of 2,000 overnight homeless beds available to folks? Like, is it doable? And does your work, I know you work quite a bit with Lance Orton at City Team, and does it all work together, or how does that play in?
So I admire Keith's ambition, and he's treating this issue like a real crisis, and he's setting up these systems that will hopefully be able to make a dent in the unsheltered homelessness that we have. And so I think about the issue along the lines of a continuum. And in shelter, or someone who's experiencing chronic homelessness in a tent is on one side, and then permanent and stable housing is on the other. And there's a lot of different steps along that continuum for different needs. And so with Portland in the state that it is right now, we have a huge population of people living outside in tents, and that's been obviously a really big issue for this city. And so I admire Keith attempting to put up all these shelter beds to get people outside to inside and better connected into the systems where they'd be able to continue along that continuum. So I think the only issue is just making sure that we don't just essentially put people into shelters and keep them there,
right?
Without making sure that there are other steps.
I think this is step one, right? Okay, so now lightning round, just to humanize this a little bit. You've been in Portland for a couple years, and so now you're a local. Because I know you're going to be around for a while, which is great. What are your top 3 things to do, like places to see, restaurants, all that stuff?
Yeah, I love hiking in the gorge. Hiking in the gorge is, it's beautiful. It's like, I live in the Laurelhurst neighborhood, and it's a 30-minute drive to a number of different hikes and beautiful views, and to get away on a weekend or go backpacking. I love that. Another thing, I've gotten really into pickleball, and haven't been playing as
2
much
for
as
2 and exactly the stuff I love doing anyway,
And so, big fan. There's these courts in Sellwood that during the summer especially, we'll be spending a lot of hours there. And then, let's see, one of my go-to restaurants, there's a Mexican restaurant called Ole Ole that's right off of Burnside. It's probably 7 minutes east of downtown. And it's just it's my go-to spot.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for being here and sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Ron.
That's awesome. All right, cheers.
The idea that we are allowing people to age into homelessness is deeply distressing.
It's gone from cutting back on all these other necessities to perhaps a substandard house to no house.
It's overwhelming to try to find housing on your own.
A lot of these places going up, they cost too much to even afford the rent.
Nobody wants to grow old in general. Definitely nobody wants to grow old homeless.